Hello, welcome to Sarah Overbooked. I am Sarah and I am here to go over the weekly, it's going to be more than weekly, basically the reading update for the rest of September, which was the 23rd to the end actually. It looks like Katrina's going to be joining us for a little bit, and I will be working on my advent calendar puzzle behind quite a bit, but I spent the last week being sick. I didn't have any energy. I slept most of the time. The first book that I finished in this time was Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson. This book's synopsis that you can read anywhere. Lillian and Madison were unlikely roommates and yet inseparable friends at their boarding school. But then Lillian had to leave the school unexpectedly in the wake of a scandal, and they've barely spoken since. Until now, more than 10 years later, when Lillian gets a letter from Madison pleading for her help. Madison's twin stepkids are moving in with her family, and she wants Lillian to be their caretaker. However, there's a catch. The twins spontaneously combust when they get agitated, flames igniting from their skin in a startling but beautiful way. Lillian is convinced Madison is pulling her leg, but it's the truth. Thinking of her dead end life at home, the life that has consistently disappointed her, Lillian figures that she has nothing to lose. Over the course of one humid, demanding summer, Lillian and her twins learn to trust one another and stay cool, staying out of the way of Madison's buttoned-up politician husband. Surprised by her own ingenuity, yet unused to the intense feelings of protectiveness she feels for them, Lillian ultimately begins to accept that she needs these strange children as much as they need her. Urgently and fiercely. Couldn't this be the start of an amazing life that she's always hoped for? That's basically exactly what this book is. It is Lillian's life. It starts while her and Madison are in school. You get the reason why she's kicked out, and then a little bit after that, before Madison contacts her again to come and take care of the stepkids. She's unhappy in her life, so she decides, what the hey, let's go do it. And she moves in and becomes their governess, and gets attached to the kids. And yes, the kids do burst into flames. So she has to figure out a way to make it so that they can control that, so that everybody around them is safe, as well as them. And of course, they get attached. I really enjoyed the writing. I really enjoyed the story, but when it came to the ending, it was a little flat for me. It didn't do it. It was not as good as the rest of the book. I was a little bit disappointed in the ending. But other than that slight hiccup, it was a really good book. It was fun. It was funny. It was heartwarming. It was just really good writing. If it had ended differently, I probably would say it was one of my favorite books of the year that I've read, but it's not. It probably won't make the list, actually. But definitely worth a read for the writing itself. I don't want to go into any specifics because I don't want to spoil anything. So I guess I'll leave it at that vague, bad review. But yeah, it was a good book. It was fun. Just a bit of a flat ending, in my opinion. The second book that I finished in this time was Old Wounds. I got it as an ARC. It is out now. It is a story about two transgender, I guess young adults, I want to say kids, but young adults, running away from home, their hometown, to start a new life. I'm just gonna call them kids. I'm sorry. They were starting college. I'm well beyond that. So one of the kids, her mother was helping her transition. The other kid, his family was very against it. It was fighting him every step of the way, and he needed and wanted to get out. Max made a plan to leave and asked Erin if she would go with him for support and to help him move on to the next stage in his life, in a much, hopefully better environment for him. So in the middle of the night, one night, they leave and they get in the car and they start driving to California. And like many horror stories, two friends driving on a quiet highway run into problems. The car breaks down and they get stuck in small town USA. As you can imagine, it being a horror story and small town USA, the residents of the city or town, they're acting a little weird. They're making odd comments. It's a little unnerving to Max. Erin doesn't seem to have it bother her too much. She just kind of goes with the flow and she's less reactive to her environment than Max is, though. So she kind of just goes with the flow of what's going on, and Max is very suspicious and edgy and not liking the feeling that he's getting. So they gets their car towed to a repair shop and they get their car fixed and head out. Max doesn't want to be there. He wants to get to California as soon as possible. As they're driving out, after they get a few miles, the car just stops, just completely breaks down. No, nothing. Max knows a bit about cars, so he checks it out, sees that what he needs is a spark plug. He says, okay, I'm gonna walk back to the town and get what we need, you stay here. Which, horror story, bad idea. This is where they start their unconventional meetings with those that are in the woods that they are stuck in and the townspeople. I'm not gonna go too much into detail because I don't want to spoil anything about the book, other than at this point just remember it's a horror with small town vibes and two out-of-towners stuck in a small town with freaky woods and a night that lasts forever. I enjoyed the book. I thought it was really good. It had a bit of a long opening, but it wanted you to get to know the main characters. So I understood that, and then it had a bit of a long ending. I do understand why the author chose to do that, but at that point, This story to me was over. This story that the book I got the book for. I got the book because it was a horror book. So the part of the story that I was looking for and reading for was over, and the extra was really more of a different book. It was like a horror story bookended by these teens' lives. But it was a good book. It was well written. I enjoyed it. If you like that type of horror, being chased, hunted through woods, I would recommend trying it out. And then the next book that I read in this time was Amari and the Night Brothers. This was my second read of this one, and I was just reading it because the third one came out, and it's been a while. It was audio only, so only while I was driving. I did enjoy the first Amari. I thought it was well done, a nice story. Did really good world building with the supernatural world around ours and how it melds in. There's the regular people and then the supernatural world. And in the supernatural world, there's the regular supernatural and the unwanted. And Amari didn't know anything about it until she came home one day and there was a package left for her by her brother who had disappeared. So she was excited to possibly find some clues to where he is by going to the summer camp that he went to, figuring that that's probably where he was when something happened. So off she goes to the supernatural training for the summer camp, and she finds out that in the magical world she has an illegal ability. So it is basically the story of her trying to fit into the new world that she found that her brother was part of, to help figure out where he is. I completely lost my train of thought. This is basically the story of her figuring out her place in the supernatural world, where her brother, without her mother's knowledge, had spent years with and working for. And now it's her turn to go there and try to make it so that she fits in with her illegal power, and then not be shunned and sent away just because of something she can do. There's nothing she can do about it. It's just a part of her. The next book I read in that time is Shock, Amari and the Big Game, the second book in the series. I liked this one better than the first one. I thought B.B. Elston did a really good job continuing on with this story and not making it like a lot of middle grades are, just everything's good, there's just a small issue and then everything else is good and everything's good at the end, all happy endings, everything works out. I don't like that. And this book didn't have that. This had real problems. This had, well, both of the books had real problems, bullying, feeling unwanted. The thought processes that Amari went through were realistic, as in this new world that she's in is just like the old world because she's getting bullied. There's no changes. She doesn't know what she can do. She is who she is, and that's that. And it gave those thoughts, realistic things going on. I enjoyed this one better than the first one. I think it's because the villain was unconventional. The stakes were higher, and when it comes down to it, the end, it wasn't an unhappy ending, but it definitely wasn't a happily ever after ending. The problems didn't all just wrap up into a nice, neat little bowl. They continued on. The next book I read in this time is The Forest of Hands and Teeth. Can you see that? It's probably getting too dark now to really see that. The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. I really didn't know anything about this going into it. I don't even remember where I heard about it in the first place. But it is the first in a series in a world where zombies are a way of life. It's been like that for years, and that's the only way that they know. The main character, Mary, she lives in a gated community. Basically, there's a fence around their community that they defend from zombies. And they are basically a society trying to survive. Their main focus is people getting married and having kids. And it's not going well because their kids aren't actually surviving. They're having lots of issues with the fertility. At one point, obviously it's a zombie story, the fence is breached. And hold on 1 second. Let's see if that's a little better. Not much, but whatever. Okay, at one point the fence gets breached, the zombies get in, and then we are following Mary and a small group of people who escaped outside the fence. They just left the city because it was going to be safer if they weren't there. Nobody alive that they know has been out other than the guardians who go out and kill zombies. They follow the fences, which are made into paths, and trying to find somewhere where they can survive because their city or town or whatever you want to call it is basically gone. The story follows them as they wander these trails, searching for food, trying to stay away from the zombies who are following them along the fence. They can't get to them, but they're still there until they find that there are other cities. They run into another city that is also empty. It had been overrun at some point. And they go in and they stay there for a little while, but that is not actually their choice. They stay there because they're chased in by a horde of zombies, and they get stuck. Not long after that, a fire starts and they have to get out. So they're back in the trails. Mary's biggest thing is she's never seen the ocean. She's only heard stories about the ocean. Most people don't believe that the ocean exists anymore. She says it would be safe. She's trying to find the ocean, and she insists that the ocean would be safe. So she's following this to find that. At the end, two of them had jumped off a cliff basically into a river. She washed up on the shore. He was nowhere in sight. The others didn't follow. And that's where the book ends, where she meets somebody from another town. It is on the shore of the ocean. It was okay. It wasn't the best book. It wasn't a bad book. It's nothing fundamentally wrong with it. It was just okay. I will probably read the next one if I can find it, but I don't expect a lot from it. And then the last book I read in this time is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This one also was okay. Nothing spectacular, nothing bad, nothing fundamentally wrong with it. Just, it's alright. It is a book about Emily Wilde is a research fellow trying to get information on all the types of fairies in the world that they live. And she goes to a small Norwegian type city to study the fae that they have there, because they haven't been studied really yet. She is very awkward. She doesn't know how to really be around people. She doesn't know how to meet people. She doesn't know how to be around people. She much more prefers to be alone and in her own space with her books. So I very much, what's that word? While she's there, her fellow professor comes to basically get onto her study because he knows that she's good and he needs some help because he screwed up. So he needs to get his name back in the good standings. So he figured that he would use her for that. There were two parts of this book. The part that I liked was her going to this out of the way place with no social skills, like me, and trying to get along, figure everything out, and fail because of her awkwardness. Meeting all the new people and trying to maneuver her way correctly in a new environment when all she wants to do is research. That part of the book I liked. I liked her interactions with all of the characters, really. Her academic, they say they're rivals, but they're not really rivals. Wendell, who came out to basically use her, and all the new people that she's meeting in the land, as well as some of the fae that she runs into. That part I enjoyed. There's another part where she goes, there's like side quests where she's going off and doing things. It's things with the fae, but it's still, it felt out of place. I didn't enjoy it. It's also the part where they brought in the romance of the book, which was, I'm not a romance girl in the first place, but this one was bad. It was dumb. And that's where these side quests came in with I didn't care about any of the characters that they added to the story for these side quests. I could have cared less. It was just filler to me. But the other part of the story, the part that I liked, was good enough that I will try the second one. but I don't know exactly if I like that. But since we've lost all our light, that is also the last book that I read before I started reading for the trick-or-treat-athon, which I'm doing in October. So I'm gonna stop it here. Hopefully the noises all around weren't too much and you can hear everything. And thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.